The detection. The vast empire ruled the stars for thousands of years. Its fleet spread across hundreds of systems. Its power unquestioned, its dominance complete. But on one quiet night deep in the cold silence of space, something strange appeared on their long-range scanners. It was only a faint signal at first, a blip too small to be taken seriously. The watch officer on duty frowned and tapped the controls, thinking it was nothing more than a glitch. But the blip returned, brighter this time, sharper, and moving at a speed no object should move. Contact. Unknown. The officer whispered, his voice shaking. The crew around him leaned forward, their eyes fixed on the glowing dot. Identification? Asked the commander, her voice calm but with an edge of worry. No ID, no signal, no registration. Nothing, the officer replied. It's just there. The commander stared at the screens. In the Empire, every ship, every drone, every satellite carried an ID code. It was law, it was order, it was control. But this thing carried nothing. It was nameless, it was silent, and it was moving far too fast. Could it be a natural object? A comet? Someone suggested, but the speed was wrong. Comets drifted slowly. This thing tore across space like a spear of fire. The calculations showed it would pass through 3 patrol zones in less than a minute. No known ship of the Empire could match it. The alarm spread quickly. Higher command was alerted. The control center filled with officers, all staring at the same impossible dot. It bent around stars with perfect precision. It ignored gravity. It left no trail, only the readings showed it was real. Deploy interceptors, ordered the admiral, his voice echoing across the chamber. Within moments, a squadron of Empire warships launched, sleek and deadly. Their engines burning bright, they locked onto the unknown object and rushed forward. But the unknown did not slow. It did not dodge, it simply moved. And before the warships could even line up a shot, it was already gone, passing them as if they were frozen in time. The captain shouted in confusion, "Target too fast, weapons can't lock." The admiral's face turned pale. Never in history had the Empire's weapons failed to track an object. Yet here was something that slipped through their entire net like a shadow. Rumors began to spread, whispers among the crew. Some said it was a ghost. Others said it was a weapon from another galaxy. One young officer muttered, "It feels human." His words were met with silence, but no one laughed, no one dared. The object continued its path, cutting through Empire space like a knife. Patrol fleets scrambled but failed. Every attempt ended the same. The unknown was simply too fast. Sensors lagged behind, computers crashed, targeting systems overheated. And still the object moved. Where did it come from? Asked the governor of the sector. Her voice trembling, but no one had an answer. The records showed no launch, no entry. It was as if it appeared from nothing, an originless shadow in the dark. High command gathered in secret chambers, debating in hushed voices if this was a new enemy, then it was one they could not stop. If it was a natural phenomenon, then nature itself had become their enemy. Some argued to ignore it, but others demanded full-scale pursuit. "We cannot allow an unidentified object to move through our space," the Grand Council declared. "This is a challenge to our authority." Yet deep down, every officer who had seen the readings felt the same chill. The Empire had faced many enemies, but never something like this. Never something that broke the very rules of space. As the unknown vanished beyond another patrol line, the admiral whispered to himself, "It does not belong here, and yet it travels like it owns the stars." The story spread quietly, told in mess halls and whispered in training academies. The tale of a nameless, signalless object that defied the Empire. It became more than a report, it became a ghost story, and in the silence of space even the bravest felt unease. For the first time in centuries, the Empire felt powerless. The watchers stared into the dark, knowing the unknown was still out there, moving too fast, moving without origin, and somewhere, someone or something was guiding it. And as the last scanner lost its lock, the commander closed her eyes and whispered words that none dared to speak aloud. "If this is human, then the Empire is in danger." The pursuit, the order came quickly, carried through encrypted channels across the sector. All available ships. "Intercept the unknown object?" The admiral's voice shook with anger, but deep inside even he knew anger was only a mask for fear. In the cold dark of space, the Empire's finest warships lit up their engines, each one armed with weapons strong enough to burn a planet. Fleets formed in perfect formation, ready to trap the nameless intruder. Commanders boasted in calm tones, but their hands gripped the controls with sweat. The object appeared again on the scanners, moving without hesitation, its course straight through the Empire's core systems. "It's not avoiding us," whispered one officer. "It's cutting a line through us." The thought sent a chill through every crewman listening. The first fleet engaged, launching interceptor drones, fast, sharp, deadly. The drones moved at lightning speed, spreading wide, tightening the net. But the unknown object did not slow. It did not change direction. It did not even acknowledge their presence. The drones tried to lock on. Targeting computers screamed warnings. But every time they fired, the unknown had already moved. Each missile flew into empty space. Each energy blast lit up only the void within seconds. The drones were nothing more than confused sparks left behind and lost. "Impossible," the drone commander gasped. It outran light weapons. No one had words, because no ship in history had ever outrun light. The second fleet moved in, heavy cruisers armed with long-range cannons. They fired in perfect synchronization, beams crossing the void, forming a deadly cage. But the object simply vanished from their path, reappearing behind them before their systems could even adjust. The cruisers turned desperately, their engines roaring. But the unknown was gone again, like a phantom. Like time itself bent around it, panic erupted on the command decks. Officers shouting, alarms blaring, weapons useless, pride crushed. Whispers spread across the crews, voices barely above a breath. "It's alive," someone said. "It's not a ship." "It's something else," but no one could prove it. No one could deny it either. The Empire's admiral clenched his fists, watching his proud fleets humiliated in silence. "We will surround it with everything we have," he barked. And soon the third wave prepared, the capital fleet, enormous battleships, thousands of guns. The Empire's pride and terror. When the unknown entered the trap, the order was given. "Fire all weapons!" The stars themselves turned red as endless firepower ripped across the void. Missiles streaked, cannons roared, beams cut space in half. The very airless dark lit like a sun. But when the light faded, the screen showed nothing. The object was untouched, still moving, still silent, and now it slowed, just enough to let the battleship see it. A shape cloaked in shadows, sleek, unnatural, terrifying. The crews held their breath. The object glided past the Empire's greatest war machines without firing a single shot. But still they could feel the message. It was faster, stronger, untouchable. Suddenly the object pulsed with energy, a wave invisible to the eye but brutal to machines. One by one, the Empire's battleships went dark, their engines dying, their weapons silenced, their lights fading. The captains shouted. Engineers scrambled, but nothing worked. The unknown had disabled the entire fleet with a single breath. Silence filled the ships. Silence filled the Empire. On one bridge, a young lieutenant stared at the faint outline of the object, and he whispered words that chilled his captain. "That's not alien tech. It feels human." The captain wanted to dismiss it, wanted to laugh, but he couldn't, because deep in his heart he felt the same. And when he turned to look at his frozen crew, he saw the same fear in their eyes. The unknown object gave no answers. It left no signal, it fired no weapons, it simply moved on, leaving the Empire's most powerful fleet helpless in the dark, like children staring at a storm they could not stop. In the Empire's High Council, rage erupted, leaders shouted, demanded explanations. Who dares humiliate us in our own space? But the truth was too heavy to admit. No one knew. No one understood, and that made the fear worse. The Grand Emperor stood from his throne, his voice cold. "If this is the work of humans, then we have woken an enemy long thought extinct." The chamber froze. No one dared to breathe, because if it was true, then history itself had lied. The story of the pursuit spread faster than the object itself. Soldiers told it in whispers. Merchants carried rumors across systems, and the people of the Empire began to feel something they had not felt in centuries. A fear that gnawed at the bones. Some called it the Phantom. Others called it the Ghost Ship. But a few, in the silence of their hearts, began to call it by another name, human. And as the unknown vanished again into the void, the admiral of the broken fleet whispered words that would echo across the Empire. "We cannot track it, because it's not running from us, it's watching us." The revelation: the Empire's fleets drifted powerless, their lights dead, their weapons useless. The unknown object had moved on. But the silence it left behind was worse than destruction. Captains sat in the dark, staring at frozen screens, listening to the sound of their own hearts. For hours, repair crews tried to restore power, but every system remained dead, as if some invisible hand had touched the ships and stolen their strength. Some whispered it was sorcery. Others said it was ancient technology. But one thought rose again and again. This feels human. Across the Empire, panic spread. Governors sent desperate messages to High Command. What is it? Where did it come from? But the answers were only guesses. Scientists worked without sleep, trying to decode the faint traces of energy the object had released. At last, one scientist found something strange. A pattern hidden in the energy waves. It was not random. It was not noise. It was structured, precise, almost like a language. It's a signal, she said, her voice breaking, but not in any alien tongue. It's human. The council chamber erupted, voices rising in denial. Impossible. Humanity was destroyed long ago. They were myths, shadows in the past, but the data was clear. Every symbol matched, every fragment lined up. This was human technology. Human science in the command center. The Admiral leaned over the glowing screens, his face pale. If this is human, he whispered, then they have grown beyond us. Far beyond. While the council argued, the object appeared again. This time not in the outer rim, but near the Empire's capital system. Its speed had slowed. Its path deliberate, as if it wanted to be seen, wanted to be tracked. Alarm sirens echoed across the Empire. Citizens rushed into shelters. Soldiers filled the streets. The sky above the capital shimmered with the glow of defense grids. Every cannon pointed outward, waiting, shaking, and then it came, slipping out of the dark. A black shape cutting across the stars, no ID, no signal, no origin. Yet more terrifying than 1,000 war fleets. It slowed further, and for the first time, its outline was clear. It was a ship, but not like any the Empire had ever seen. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, its edges blurred as if space itself bent around it. Engines burned with a light that defied science. Not fire, not plasma, something unknown, something alive. On the bridge of the Capital Defense Station, officers stared wide-eyed. What is it doing? Asked one, his hands trembling on the controls. The Admiral narrowed his eyes. It's not attacking. It's watching us. The ship pulsed again, releasing a wave of energy, but this time, it did not disable systems. Instead, it carried sound. A voice that echoed across every channel, every speaker, every corner of the Empire. The voice was calm, steady, but filled with a weight that crushed hearts. And worst of all, it was in human language. We see you, it said, only 3 words. But those words shook the Empire like thunder. Commanders froze. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Civilians fell to their knees because in those words was something far worse than hostility. It was certainty. The council demanded a response. Orders flew. Messages screamed into the void. Identify yourself. Who commands you? But the unknown ship gave no reply, only silence, only its presence. Then, the impossible happened. From the surface of the strange ship, a small projection appeared, faint at first, then clear, the image of a human figure. Tall, silent, standing in the void, its eyes glowing like stars. Gasps filled the chamber. Guards raised their weapons, but no shot was fired. The image did not move. It only looked as if measuring, as if judging. Is it real? One officer whispered, or a memory. No one knew. No one dared to answer. The scientist who had decoded the signal whispered to the Admiral, her voice hollow. It is not a ghost. It is not a myth. It is a warning. The Admiral clenched his fists, his eyes locked on the human figure. Why return now? He thought. Why reveal yourselves in this way? But the answer never came, only silence, only fear, and then, as suddenly as it had arrived, the ship moved again, engines igniting with impossible light, its speed rising until no sensor could follow. In seconds it was gone, leaving only emptiness. But emptiness was worse than attack. Because now the Empire knew they were not alone. Humanity had returned. Not as weak exiles, not as forgotten myths, but as something faster, stronger, untouchable. The council chamber shook with arguments. Some demanded immediate war. Others cried for peace, some begged to hide, but no one could deny the truth. The balance of power was broken. The Empire was no longer the master of the stars. Across the galaxy, people whispered the same words, passed in secret, shared in fear. They are back. The humans have returned. And on the dark side of a dead moon, the strange ship rested for a moment. Its hull glowing faintly inside, unseen by alien eyes. Humans walked its decks, silent, calm. And one of them spoke to the others. They finally noticed us, he said, his voice carrying both pride and sorrow. Now, the game begins. The confrontation. The Empire had ruled unchallenged for centuries, but now their pride was cracked, their fleets disabled, their people whispering in fear. The unknown ship had spoken only 3 words, "We see you," and that was enough to shake the galaxy. The Grand Emperor sat on his throne, his voice filled with fury. "Summon the ship, demand its identity, demand its loyalty, or destroy it." His words echoed in the chamber, but even his counselors felt the weakness behind them. They all knew, if it could disable entire fleets with a pulse, what hope did weapons hold? So they called it. Their message broadcast across every frequency. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Empire space without clearance. You will identify yourself at once, you will submit, or you will be destroyed." For a long moment there was only silence. Then the stars above the capital system trembled. The dark shimmered, and the ship appeared again, moving slower now, as if mocking the Empire's demand. Its hull gleamed like liquid night, bending starlight around it. On every channel the voice returned, colder, sharper, filled with authority that silenced even the Emperor's rage. "We do not submit." 3 words again. But heavier than any fleet, the chamber fell silent. Commanders lowered their heads, as if those words were law. The Emperor rose, his voice shaking. "What are you? Who commands you?" The question carried across the void. The ship pulsed, and once more, the human figure appeared standing in the projection. This time it moved. It raised its head, and eyes like burning suns locked on the Emperor. "You know who we are," the voice said. "You buried our name in lies. You told the stars we were gone, but humanity does not vanish. We endure." Gasps filled the chamber, fear spreading like wildfire. The Emperor tried to stand tall, but his crown felt heavy. "Humans were erased long ago. Nothing remains of them," he declared. But the voice cut through his words like a blade. "You erased nothing," the figure said. "You only closed your eyes. While we built what you could never imagine. Speed you cannot track, power you cannot match." Suddenly, alarms flared across the capital system. Defense grids powering down, cannons shutting off, entire fleets floating powerless. The human ship had not fired a single weapon, but with a single breath the Empire was blind. The admiral of the fleet shouted orders, desperate to re-engage. But nothing worked. Every system lay dead, every ship helpless, and then came the sound. A deep hum, like the heartbeat of a giant, echoing from the human vessel, growing louder, heavier, until it filled the air like thunder. The Emperor clenched his fists. "If you seek war, you will find it." But even his words sounded empty, hollow. The human figure tilted its head. "War? No, not yet," the figure said. "This is not conquest, this is a reminder." "Reminder of what?" the Emperor demanded, his voice trembling now. The figure leaned forward, its eyes blazing. "That humans write their own rules." The chamber erupted into chaos. Commanders shouting, ministers begging, citizens in the streets crying, because those words carried a truth no Empire law could erase. Then the human ship did something no one expected. Instead of attacking, it opened a channel wide across the galaxy, broadcasting not to the Empire alone, but to every world, every colony, every ship, every ear that could hear. The human voice rang out across the stars. "We are here," it declared. "We have returned, and we do not bow." Billions listened, billions trembled for the first time. The Empire's lies were broken for the first time. The galaxy knew humans still existed. Not as myths, not as ghosts, but as something stronger than fear itself. The Emperor fell back into his throne, pale, weak, powerless. His greatest fleets disabled, his citizens shaken, his dominance shattered by only one ship, one voice, one truth on the bridge of the human vessel. Men and women stood calm, watching the chaos they had unleashed. One officer asked softly, "Will they strike back?" The commander smiled faintly. "They cannot, not yet." "Then what is our next move?" the officer asked. The commander's eyes hardened. "We wait, we watch, and when the Empire finally dares to reach for us again, they will find out what true war is." The ship's engines ignited with impossible fire. The vessel rose like a shadow into the stars, its speed building until no sensor could hold it. And once again, it vanished, leaving silence. But this silence was no peace, it was the silence before a storm. The silence of a galaxy that had just realized it was not the master of its own fate. And in that silence, every world of the Empire repeated the same words in fear and awe. "The humans have returned." The legacy. The galaxy did not sleep after the broadcast. Across 1,000 worlds, the words of the human ship echoed like thunder. "We are here, we have returned, and we do not bow." The Empire tried to silence the message, shutting down channels, erasing recordings, hunting those who dared to repeat it, but it was too late once spoken. The words lived in the hearts of billions. On frontier planets, workers whispered them in minds. Traders carried them across stars. Children repeated them like prayers. And in the deepest corners of the Empire, hope began to grow. Hope for freedom. Hope for change, but hope was not the only legacy. Fear spread faster. The Empire's fleets refused to patrol certain routes. Captains feared the ghost ship might appear again. Governors demanded more protection. Soldiers spoke in whispers of the day their weapons had been silenced with a single pulse. In the High Council, chaos reigned. Some ministers begged for peace, others demanded total war. The Emperor sat pale and silent, his crown heavy on his head. He knew the truth his counselors refused to say aloud. The Empire was no longer unchallenged. The scientists who studied the energy waves finally admitted it openly. The technology is beyond us, they said, not alien, not Empire. Human. Their words struck the Council like a blade, because humanity was supposed to be extinct. Wiped out long ago, erased from history. Then history lied to us, one general muttered, his hands trembling. And now the lie has returned to collect its debt. Meanwhile, in the shadows of space, the human ship drifted silently. Its crew calm, their eyes sharp, they watched the chaos unfold through hidden channels, listening to the Empire's panic. Their commander stood at the viewing deck, the stars shining on his face. They finally know, he said softly. And that was only the beginning. An officer stepped closer. Should we reveal more? Should we strike? But the commander shook his head. No, not yet. Fear is stronger than fire, and right now fear works for us. Back in the Empire's capital, the people no longer looked at their rulers with the same blind faith. Mothers told children about the ghost ship. Fathers spoke of humans with awe instead of scorn. The Empire's lies crumbled with every whispered story. The Emperor ordered the archives unsealed. Desperate to understand in secret chambers, he read forbidden records, old wars, old battles, and there he found the truth. Humans had not been destroyed. They had simply vanished, retreating into shadows, waiting, watching, and now, returning, his hands shook as he read the final line of a centuries-old report. Beware humanity, for they do not conquer space, they become it. That night, the Emperor could not sleep, for every time he closed his eyes, he saw the human figure with burning eyes and heard the voice that shattered his empire's pride. Humans write their own rules. Whispers turned into legends, legends into movements on distant colonies. Rebels painted symbols of the human ship on walls, calling it the Phantom of Freedom. Soldiers refused to fire on protesters, fearing the humans might be watching. The Empire's control weakened, and then, as if to remind them, the ship appeared once more. Not near a fleet, not near a city, but above a barren world on the edge of Empire space, silent, waiting, its presence alone enough to send waves of panic through the Empire's heart. The Emperor broadcast to it again, his voice trembling now. What do you want? For a long time, silence. Then the human voice returned, calm, steady, undeniable. Not your throne, not your riches, not your empire. The figure appeared again, its burning eyes piercing through every screen. We want you to remember, this galaxy does not belong to you alone. And with that, the ship turned, its engines glowing with impossible light. It vanished once more, leaving only silence. But this silence was no longer fear alone. It was a promise, a warning, a shadow across every star, the legacy of a single ship that had broken an empire's illusion. From that day forward, the galaxy remembered it as the ghost of humanity. A legend written not in books, not in archives, but in the hearts of billions. A story whispered in fear and awe. And every time a scanner flickered, every time a fleet vanished from sensors, every time the stars grew too quiet, commanders asked the same question in trembling voices. Is it them? For the first time in centuries, the Empire realized it was not eternal, not invincible, not unchallenged, and somewhere in the dark unseen a human commander smiled. They will never forget us now, he whispered, and next time, we won't just pass by.